D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you on Monday morning. A demolition in Detroit, a dismantling in Detroit, destruction in Detroit. As long as it's alliterative, we can work on it. But either way, Lions 52, Titans 14. We want to hear from you early and often. 615-737-1025 on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan will address reporters shortly from St. Thomas Sports Park. We will bring you his comments as soon as he takes the podium. But gentlemen, I wanted a respectable game. It was respectable for about, how long would you say it was respectable?
Well, it was 14-14 early in the second quarter, and immediately, less than 2 minutes later, it was 21-14. So they didn't get it to halftime this time, competitive, which is the one thing you could have said about all but one of the games so far. That was what they were hanging their hat on, is we're in position to win these games. We just have not been able to get over the hump. That was not the case yesterday. And if you look at the last two second halves, they have been overmatched by, I would say, Super Bowl contending teams. The Bills and the Lions are Super Bowl contenders. If they met in the Super Bowl this year, I would not be completely shocked. So you're measuring yourself against the best, the top end, and you see how far the gap is between them and what you're trying to build.
So it was a respectable game for the first quarter and the first couple minutes of the second quarter. So let's call it 18 minutes of competitive football.
Well, it was 28-14 with 11:37 to go in the first half. So it went from a tie game to giving up 2 touchdowns in a very short span.
Yes.
And their defense, which is supposed to be what keeps them in games, they were put in some bad spots yesterday.
Absolutely.
But they were not able to stop the bleeding or keep them around by getting a big stop, a big turnover, a big red zone, hold them to a field goal. I mean, that's why it's so – I don't know why people still do it, come in and say they're the number one defense because of the yards. The yards mean very little when you get down to it. They mean something, but that is not the measurement of the best defenses.
Yesterday was the prime example of why yards does not equal best defenses in the NFL. This was a stat from the NFL that when I saw it, it was mind-boggling. The Lions were the first team to score 50-plus points with fewer than 100 passing yards in a game since 1955. That was the last time a team scored 50-plus points with fewer than 100 passing yards. 1955. Was the forward pass even a thing in 1955?
It was. But face masks, I don't think were a thing in 1955.
They saw the Leatherheads.
I think maybe what year did the leather turn into? Who was the first person, and what year was it, that came into the locker room and said, "You guys, these leather helmets, I got something new. I've got something. It's made of plastic. It's harder. It's a shell. I think it'll be better than these leather things we're wearing." What year was that? I don't know.
It might actually be in the 50s. I have no idea.
I don't know.
I will do that research. But my point being, to Willie's point, is that the Titans defense can say, hey, we give up fewer than 100 passing yards. That's great. You gave up 50-plus points as a team. As I said, the first time that's happened since 1955. I get really bad secondhand embarrassment. Like I used to watch those shows on MTV. There used to be a show called Made on MTV. It came on when I was a teenager, so I was right in that wheelhouse. And what the show was about was they would take somebody who wanted to do something, and they would pair them with a professional in that field, and they would try to fulfill their dream. And one of the most common ones that they would do, they would have these nerdy guys. They wanted to go to the homecoming dance or the prom, and they wanted to have a date, but they were really nerdy and shy around girls. So remember, professional, like the professional ladies men, like the dating consult. I can't remember pickup artists. That's the word I'm looking for. They would set up these nerdy high schoolers with these pickup artists who would try to teach them how to pick up girls and ask girls out so that they could have a date to the dance. And it was so hard to watch because these teenagers were flailing. They were sinking, trying to ask these girls out, and they were trying to spit game, and it was not good. And I had to watch through my fingers because it was that uncomfortable. And that's what it was like watching that football game yesterday. That was not a professional football team on that field. There was one on the field, the Detroit Lions. I don't know what was going on with the Tennessee Titans yesterday, but I had such hardcore secondhand embarrassment watching that football game yesterday, Derek.
I mean, you can't win a game when you don't give yourself an opportunity to win the game. That's basically what it boils down to. First series of the game, they went 3 and out. Now, mind you, the Titans defense did cause the Detroit Lions to go 3 for 9 on third down. That's a plus. When Detroit had to travel the length of the field, basically, I think they scored once. They gave up 7 points once. People don't understand when you're playing with half of the field, that's not good. People can scream and yell and curse and say the defense should have stopped them. And okay, yeah, you can say that. But when you're only playing half of the field, majority of the game, which the Detroit Lions were doing, there's only so much that the defense can do. They held them as long as possible. Eventually, the dam is going to break and you're going to give up points. They were in that game going into halftime. The only thing Brian Callahan had to do was kick a field goal, get some points, let's go on with some momentum, come back after half, and then we can reset ourselves. But when you try to 4 straight plays,
that was crazy.
You're running pass plays instead of trying to run the ball to the best player, giving the ball to the best player on your team, Pollard, right now. You don't give him the ball once. That was coaching malpractice, but that's a young coach. Vrabel did some stupid things when he was his first year as a head coach, but he was able to sort of, redeem himself, and he had a pretty good tenure here. But that first year, he had a lot of bonehead things that he did as a coach, and Brian Callahan is having those things. But the surprising part about it, at least the right before half, is you are an offensive coordinator. You are at the 1 yard line. The one thing that is working for you is the run game. So at least run the ball one time. Detroit had proven they couldn't really stop the run. You were getting chunks at times. So run the football. If you don't get in, then now we can say, all right, they held us up. But you didn't give your team an opportunity to score. I understand the play calling. I don't think there was necessarily anything with those 4 plays. I don't think there was anything necessarily wrong with the play calling. You had Tyler Boyd drop one, and then you had another that should have been a touchdown, but something happened on the play, and then you had the fade to Nick Westbrook-Akine, and I don't know what you tried to run on one of the other ones, but you had 4 opportunities.
That was the one where
exactly
he went out of bounds and came back.
Yeah, he went out of bounds, came back
in.
in. It was like, man, you did your team a huge disservice. It was almost like your arrogance got in the way of you calling the right play. Like, you didn't score the first time with a pass play, so you said, damn it, I'm going to do it again. You didn't do it again, so you said, you know what, I got some more pass plays. Instead of saying, whoa, let me run the ball at least one time to see if we can get the ball in. Because I guarantee you probably would have got the ball in. The way Pollard was running, the way the offensive line was blocking on run plays, you would have at least made it close. in regards to scoring a touchdown, but you chose to go the opposite of that. Why? Again, because your arrogance got in the way. I can call the right pass play to get the ball in the end zone from the 1 yard line. That was worse than, well, I'm not going to say worse because Pete Carroll ended up losing the Super Bowl because that, but that was sort of like the Pete Carroll, like, dude, just run the ball in.
That was a
You're
bummer.
right. Exactly. And you're not running the ball in. This team, and again, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to hold the defense at fault mainly for this, because when the average starting point for an offense is like the plus 40, your 40, something's wrong with that. Like, how many times can I hold up if they're starting on the other side of the 50? You're going to give us some points every now and then when they only have to drive 40-some yards. Matter of fact, they only got to drive 20 yards to get points.
But you got to hold them to field goals.
Yeah, but you got to. But
every single time they scored a touchdown.
I get
it was
that.
Easy.
But I get that part. But when you put a team in a situation like that too many times,
right,
it eventually is going.
It's breaking at their.
It's going to break.
Yeah.
Those guys are tired. Those guys didn't spend as much time being able to rest. But again, that's his job, meaning Denard Wilson, to put together a defense, and that's their job, defensive guys, to stop. This roster isn't good. And I'm going to tell you why it's not good, or I'm going to show you why it's not good. Look at the special teams. That's the reason this roster is not good. Just look at their special teams, because typically what happens is who are playing your special teams? Your second line guys. Not too many of your starters are playing on punt return, kickoff, and punt. Not too many of your starters are playing not on field goal. They are, because it's just the offensive line and the extra tight end or so. But the bulk of these guys that are playing on your teams, special teams, are backup guys. Does the Titans have depth? No. So now what you're doing is you're asking guys that are really third line guys, meaning damn near practice squad guys that shouldn't be playing. You're asking them now to play, or you're asking your frontline guys who's tired. They got to go on special teams, and you're asking them to go out there and get the job done. This is not a Coach Anderson problem. It is not. Any special teams coach they bring in here, they have no depth, people. And if you understand anything about football, if you have no depth, the first people that suffer, or the first unit that suffers, is special teams. Because those are the guys that are usually playing on your special teams, trying to win a job to ultimately become starters. This team has no depth. It is trickled down. It's a trickle-down effect. And it's happening, and it's happening in real time.
Ken on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, why is it always the Titans anytime there is a first time ever or first time in decades? That's in reference to the stat I shared that the Lions were the first team to score 50-plus points with fewer than 100 passing yards in a game since 1955. Well, I've got another one for you.
They're
Ken.
not always a first time.
It does. It just seems like when it rains, it pours. But here's another one for you, Ken, courtesy of Benjamin Solak of ESPN. I believe this was after Calvin Ridley's fumble and the subsequent touchdown. The Lions are the first team ever with 5 touchdown drives of 30 or fewer yards in a single game.
If they only got to go 30 yards 5 times 30 yards, I expect you to stop once, okay, but 5 times inside, and it's not like you're going against the Carolina Panthers or you're going against the England Patriots. You're going against the best offense in the National Football League, and their starting point is the 30. And you're asking a defense who's depleted at the secondary position. That's a whole different problem. But they have no starters in the back, at least at the cornerback position. You're going against an offensive juggernaut. What do they do, or what can they do? You can only do so much. I've been there. That's why, to me, I'm not sitting here, ranting and raving, because there's nothing they can do. This is a bad team. And for everybody that is screaming for change, fire the head coach, fire the GM, y'all are the same people that said this team wasn't going to win no more than 5 games. Well, here it is. They've given you the plate. You already said the food was going to be nasty when it comes out. But then it comes out and you taste it and it's nasty. Now you want to complain about it. You knew that this team was going to be a bad team. If you know anything about football, you knew this team was not going to be good. But now y'all are complaining, yelling and screaming, saying this guy needs to be fired, that guy needs to be fired, when this roster isn't good at all.
The issue with that, and we'll continue with this over the course of the show, and Ran Carthon did emerge like Puxatawny Phil on Groundhog Day, sort of. And we'll talk about what Ran Carthon had to say later. But the issue, and Willie has brought this up many times, it's the messaging. It's the messaging from the organization. I think that the Titans brass, Ran Carthon, Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan, they're supposed to, part of their job is to sell a vision for the franchise. And they sold a vision that this team was going to be competitive, which is not what they should have done. I remember we all made our predictions before the start of the season. I said the Titans were going to finish 7-10. And boy, doesn't that look good right about now? 7-10. Of all of our hosts, in terms of actual predictions, not the expectations that Jared and Ian had, but actual on the paper predictions, Big Joe Dubin, I believe, was the least optimistic. He had them at 5-12. And I remember, like, 5-12. Like, I don't think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be that bad. Big Joe was onto something.
Well,
So,
when your roster isn't when your roster is depleted at depth, it takes one or two guys to go down to change the whole narrative of what's going on with your team. And that is what's happening. First, the quarterback didn't work out. And then they start having guys go down. Well, once one or two guys go down, the same problem that Mike Vrabel ran into. Once a few guys go down, now you start to see the depth of your team. And there's no, and somebody needs to pull this up for me, because everybody's saying, well, they should have came out and said this was a rebuild. There's no team in the National Football League that I know of where the GM or the owner is going to come out. This is not basketball. This is not baseball. This is not hockey. They have a different fan base and everything else. There's no GM that is going to come out, at least not a GM that I know, will come out and say this is a rebuild. They're not going to do that.
They should.
No, I know what they should and what they in the history.
There are
of,
ways to do
no,
it without
in the
using
history,
that word.
In the history
There's
of the
ways
NFL,
to do it,
and
if you're
fans are not
smart.
going to show up. That's what I'm saying. And it's all about the bottom line. And I'm just you may be right with that, Willie. And I've said you were right. Maybe they need to rebrand the message. But there's no NFL GM that is going to come out and say, listen, this is a rebuild. Be patient with us. Nobody's going to. They can do it in baseball. They can do it in basketball. They can do it in hockey. They cannot do it in football. Why? Because ain't nobody going to show up in them stands if you tell them in the front end that, hey, listen, this is a rebuild. We may only win 2 or 3 games. They're going to say, well, you know what? We'll come back the year after that when y'all ready to win.
615.
People are not stupid, or at least they should.
People are stupid, Willie. I'm not throwing that at, but people are.
But you can't
naive. Let's say
you can't
naive,
sell- you
naive,
can't
not
sell
stupid,
false
but naive.
hope. You can't sell false hope. And well, you know what they did? They kind of sold.
There's
false
been
hope.
false hope sold
Because-
everywhere.
because they but they should have been smarter about it. And the fans, I think, would have been more understanding that way.
We will get back into this coming up next, but we await Brian Callahan. I believe he is next to address reporters at St. Thomas Sports Park. 615-737-1025. We'll take your texts and calls all show long. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Binkin, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Happy Monday out there. I know Titans fans, it ain't a happy Monday to y'all, but if you got up, put your feet on the ground, then yes, it is a happy Monday. And if you want to do your bets, then you need to do it with our partners, Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in Tennessee that is bringing sports betting to a whole new level. And I mean that literally. So whether you're betting on a Titans game or somebody else, another NFL game, you need to do it with our partners. So when you sign up with Zen Sports, you'll automatically earn up to $100, no danger wager. If your first bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $100. And now that football season has started and we're going into what's the end of the 8th week, Zen Sports is launching, or they have launched, their revamped betting platform for both college football and the NFL. And what's better, with their new look, Zen Sports will be offering daily promotions, including our boost, same game parlays, no danger wagers, and so much more. Also, Zen Sports offers a one-of-a-kind VIP reward program. If you qualify, you earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, and even sportbook bonuses. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for, football fans? Start betting with Zen Sports, where you will receive true odds on all parlays and an enhanced user experience for all. Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
I see what you did there, David. Born and raised in South Detroit. Is there a South Detroit, Derek?
Yeah, there's the South, East, West. It's all of it.
I feel like I've heard there's not really a
But
South
we don't
Detroit,
call it
quote unquote.
South Detroit. Yeah, we don't call it like South Detroit. It's just the East Side and the West Side, man. That's all we say.
But you
East and West.
know who stopped believing yesterday? The Tennessee Titans, after losing 52-14 to the Detroit Lions. We await Brian Callahan's news conference. We will bring it to you as soon as he takes the podium. But first, Mike in Gallatin is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mike, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys, I know this will be something that is going to take a lot longer than probably what time you have to cover. But, man, for the last 2 seasons in whole, not just this season 2, we have not scored points in the second half at all. The second half woes are just wild. I can't explain. Just the switch just completely turns off. Derek, is there something that, like, I'm sure you guys have talked this at least a little bit before, but what's going on in the second half that we're not doing in the first or something like that? Because, man, I just can't explain why we can't put up any points in the second half. It's embarrassing.
Thanks, Mike. And by the way, on the broadcast yesterday, they did show second half point differential over the past 3 years. This season, the season before, and the season before that. Titans last. So this is an issue that predates Brian Callahan. It happened under Mike Vrabel as well. Derek, go ahead.
This is an issue that predates him and anybody that's basically in management right now, whether it's Brinkert, Rand, Callie, anybody, it predates them. But, man, the second half was, I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy for somebody to say, well, they didn't make adjustments. Don't you know? I'm going to give y'all a picture so y'all can stop saying they don't make adjustments. I'm going to give y'all an inside view of what happens in the locker room at halftime. All right, we come in. The coaches have a quick meeting with themselves, maybe a couple minutes. Players are going to the restroom, getting treatment, getting IVs. So you got about 10 to 15 players doing other things to get themselves ready for the second half. And then right before we go out, the last 2 minutes of the game, the last 2 minutes of halftime, so to speak, before we got to go out, and maybe the last minute, the head coach comes in here and he gives his spiel. That's it. Then we come back out to the lot. Then we go back out of the field. So when people say, why don't they make adjustments? You don't even have time to sit there to talk about making adjustments. Now, the OC may go up to the quarterback and say, hey, listen, that play we ran, in the first half, we're going to come back to that play and look at this, or we may run it out of a different formation, but we'll come back to it. Those are the adjustments that are being made. There's not no wholesale. Okay, we ran these 50 plays. We're going to throw these 50 plays out and run a whole new 50 plays. It doesn't work that way, people. Adjustments, it's not like they're making these overhaul adjustments. It's tweaking a little thing here, a little thing there, and then you're hoping that when you do come out, that it works. You're not going in there making these wholesale changes or making these, what people deem are adjustments. Every team in the National Football League make an adjustment. But does the adjustment work? Because believe that team on the other side, they're making adjustments too, whether they're up or they're behind. They're making adjustments too. And you just hope that the things that you talked about at halftime, which was probably for 30 seconds, you hope then you can come out and execute at least that first drive to get some momentum. Football is all about timing and momentum. If you get that momentum and that timing down, then your offense tend to run. If your defense if your defense gets that momentum, then they're rolling. They're not making wholesale changes at half. They're not doing all of these things that people think they should do because they don't have enough time. You put together a game plan at the beginning of the week of about maybe 100 and something pass plays. You're not going to run all 100 of them. It may not be, about 100 of them. And then opposite of that is probably the same amount or close to it of run plays. That's your game plan for the whole game for that week because you're trying to do some things that you think you can capitalize on that defense. If it doesn't work, then you go to another play. It's not like you're inventing new plays out there and say, well, they're doing this, so we should do that. There's only so many defenses a defense can play, and there's only so many offensive plays an offense can run as far as variations of a play. There's only so many. Are you capitalizing on those plays? Are you seeing the open guy? Because just about every play has one open guy. You just got to find that open guy quick enough.
Willie, any thoughts?
So there's your adjustments, people.
Well, they're not even getting points in the second half in garbage time when the game is out of reach like it was yesterday.
But when you become one-dimensional, you lose all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot bigger than the halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, the bottom line is this has been a problem for a long time. I think it's the mark of just not being very good when you get down to it. But it is stunning. Those are glaring stats, is their performance in second halves, and then specifically the punt team. You can look at all of the special teams, and it's last, but it's last because of how bad the punt team is relative to anybody else in the league. It's just stunning how bad the punt team is.
Brian Callahan has arrived at the podium at St. Thomas Sports Park. We'll bring you to him now.
Not much to report from last night. Well, again, injury-wise, dealing with a couple of things here and there, but nothing that any definitiveness right now. So we'll see what Wednesday brings. A couple more days, but no one, that's from yesterday. We had nobody real issues. So we'll see where we are come Wednesday. But as of right now, just working through all the normal bumps and bruises at week 8.
What kind of conversation have you had with Colt in the aftermath of all that happened on special teams yesterday?
Yeah, watch tape together, see where it went wrong, see what issues we had and where they came up, and where we can fix them. What things we can do differently to make sure we put a better execution on the field, better schematics on the field, whatever that may be, to help us be better than it was on Sunday, because we can't have that. That's not at all acceptable in that regard. So got to find some solutions. And again, it can come a lot of different ways. We're working hard on it today on what we can do differently to help that process out.
Some issues maybe with hang time and also tackling. Absolutely. What can you do to fix that? Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think we need to do a better job. I think Stoney can do a better job of putting the ball in the air longer, give us a chance to cover, because the reality of it is we made some personnel changes on that punt unit after the block punts early in the season, try to settle it down, which we've done. They've done a really nice job protecting the punter, but we've sacrificed a little bit of speed and coverage ability with some of the bigger bodies in there to protect the punter. And when you do that, the ball's got to hang up further, and we have to have a chance to get down the field and cover. Obviously we're down some gunners because those guys are now, playing more football for us with Nick Westbrook, and Jarvis was one of the gunners too. And, so we got to do a better job of complementing each other in each phase of the punt unit. And right now we're not doing a good enough job of that. Our hang time, I think, is averaging somewhere around 4.0, which has got to be higher than that, and to give ourselves a chance.
Get starters. Do you need to get more starters involved in that unit?
Yeah, we'll look at that. I mean, all 3 tight ends are on a unit. Some guys we have that have started are on there, but yeah, we'll look at that. Certainly, if that's an avenue to help improve it, we'll improve it. And if we feel like that can get us a better coverage unit, then certainly we'll ask those guys to play.
Does that hang time become maybe even more of an issue when a guy like Stonehouse kicks it as far as he does? Does that actually maybe hurt when the hang time?
Right now, it is hurting us. Yes, I mean some of the punts that we've had where it gets down the field and it goes long down the field, but it doesn't hang up in the air and give us enough time to get down there to cover, puts us in a tough spot. And then our fundamentals of it got to be better too. We were in position yesterday. The first punt return should have never got out. We should have been able to get them on the ground, and we don't, because we missed a tackle or two, and then all of a sudden you miss 2 tackles and a punt return, and in the NFL it's out. And so we got to be better there fundamentally, and then we can find some ways personnel-wise to help us. And then, there's some things schematically we can do to help our guys as well. So, look, it's an all-hands-on-deck approach to getting solutions to some of our issues. And again, we've fixed previous issues, and now other issues are showing up that we have to find a way to get better at quickly, because, again, we can't give up the return yards that we gave up.
That Colt can turn the special teams unit around?
Colt's played a lot of football in the NFL too. He played for 8 years as a player. He was under one of the best special teams coaches in football, I think, in Darren Simmons in Cincinnati. So he's got the experience and the wherewithal to understand where the special teams issues are. And then you got Anthony Levine in there with him, who also has seen a lot and played a lot under John Harbaugh in Baltimore. So those guys got great special teams experience. They understand what they're looking at and what there is, and we have to do a better job all the way around. But those guys know special teams, and they know what the solutions are, and we have to make sure we implement them and do them because I think they're good young coaches. But again, they're young coaches too, just like there's a couple of us are, and we have to do a better job all the way around.
The guys who've played, there are examples abound, who played well, who don't necessarily coach well. And you said the same thing about solutions after the punt block. But isn't the key to find the solutions before the problems happen?
Yeah, sometimes problems show up that you don't necessarily anticipate. When those things you make a change and it's a give and take, and those things can pop up on you. And again, we've got to find ways to get the ball in position for us to cover and get guys down there. And I'd love to force some more fair catches and not give returners a chance to get the ball in their hands and get up the field. So certainly there is a proactive part of it. You want to be ahead of the curve, but then when you're not, you got to find ways to react and fix it quickly. So that's where we're at right now.
But do you have any regret about letting loose some of those core special teamers when it came to personnel decisions on cut day?
No, I mean, really, there was maybe one. Who would you be referring to? Just
Hassan or Matt Jackson or some of these guys that took a lot of Anthony Kendall, special teams reps the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, we had Anthony Kendall on the practice squad and we were trying to get to a point where maybe he was healthy, but then our roster moves and we had to make some moves to do some other things. But yeah, I mean, there's a place for those special teams guys on your roster, and we felt like we had enough of them at the cut down date and felt good about where we were at. And right now it's just not been good enough. So we can look back in hindsight and that might have helped, might not have. I'm not sure, but right now we are where we are, and we got to find a way to get it corrected.
Has the team regressed in some areas, or is it more a product of your flaws exposed by playing two teams who are Super Bowl caliber on the road?
No, I don't think we've regressed. I think we continue to make strides. I think we're getting better. I thought we played that first half of offensive football was as good as we played offensively all year against a defense that I thought was really, really good. And we found ways to make plays and move the ball. I mean, I think we had 8 explosive plays in a game, and that usually, again, is going to put you in pretty good position in most weeks to have a chance to win. Defensively, we still do a lot of really good things. And again, we got teams like Detroit are going to make their plays. It's a good football team. They're a contending team for a reason, and so we knew they're going to have opportunities to make plays, and they made some, and we made some. But we got to stop giving teams opportunities to beat us, which we do too much of. When you give them five possessions that start inside their territory, when you turn the ball over 4 times, you're not doing anything that's going to help you win a game. And right now, we got to find ways to eliminate those mistakes, and I got to do a better job of helping the quarterbacks not make those decisions. We got to do a better job of holding on to the football when we have it in our hands. And then again, we got to fix the special teams problems that we have currently. So I see improvement in a lot of areas, and I know it doesn't look like it. And we've been, 2 really good football teams that, took advantage of our mistakes. And that's what the good teams in this league do, is they punish you when you make mistakes. And we made too many, and they punished us. And there is things that I'm encouraged by. There's things that are getting better every week. And I think we're closer than it may appear. In a lot of areas, but we got to keep pushing forward.
Given how you guys gained 416 yards yesterday, but only scored 14 points. I mean, outside of that 1st and goal situation, what is behind moving up and down the field but not being able to punch it in?
Yeah, that's a critical part. That would have been nice to get 21 points there before the half ended. That would have been a pretty solid first half. And again, we just our execution wanes in the second half. We get the first come out against the first drive of the third quarter, and we got Ridd in a great spot. We got a great mismatch with him on a linebacker, and we get tackled, a half a yard short of the sticks, and we got a punt. And then we had a really bad series where we just kind of went 2 incompletions and then got to 3rd and 10, and that's not, 3rd and 10 is a tough spot for us right now. We're not super efficient on 3rd and longs. That's kind of been our Achilles heel in the second half, is getting behind those sticks. Whereas in the first half, it was multiple times where we didn't even hit a 3rd down in some of those drives. So that's the balance, and we're not consistent enough, long enough over the course of a game right now, and we need to be.
At the start of another week, you have some optimism. Will's back this Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see where he's at. I'm optimistic he's in a better place after some rest. He's probably going to take another day or 2 of rest, and then we'll see what he looks like Wednesday. So I can't comment with any certainty what will be the case, but I'm hopeful that he's closer to feeling like 100% or as close to that as he can, so he can go out there and play.
would you classify the turnovers yesterday? And I guess the other way to ask it is early in the season, there were some sort of inexplicable decisions that led to them, and it felt like if you clean those up, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yesterday, there's 4. Are those inexplicable? Are they great defensive plays? How do you clean
The
those?
first one was one that is in line with those early ones that we called the play action pass. We got a bunch of guys devoted to protection. It's kind of a 2-man route, 3-level throw with the back out. They covered it, and that's what happens sometimes. The defense covers the play. Mason goes to draw on the high cross, and the safety rips down out of quarters, and he kind of cuts it off. And so he's going to draw, and then he feels the safety drive it, and then he sort of tries to go check the ball. Then as he's getting hit, and throws the ball right to the other defender. Whereas like it's 2nd and 6, just look, if there's nothing there, 1, throw it away, or 2, take the sack. Don't put us in that spot. So that one was a bad one. The second one was, that interception was one that happens to quarterbacks. The post safety's in the middle of the field. They cut it. We got the high cross coming there. The safety just cuts it. We have a route on the outside that, has a shot, but the safety came out of the middle and made a nice play. Those things happen to quarterbacks. That's not necessarily a decision-making error. And then we just get 2 balls punched out. Red's got a jet sweep and he's in traffic and they just punch it out. And then, Chig's got one where it just gets punched out again. So, fighting through traffic, trying to get another yard or 2, guys trying to do something with it and put the ball in harm's way. It's not secured the way it's supposed to be. And it's things we talk about every week. And, they got punched out. And so those ones aren't inexplicable. Those are just, the defense making a play on a football and us not taking care of it well enough.
I guess to St. Brown and to Raymond, those guys look like they were particularly open. What did they do to get those guys in the clear?
Yeah, they were. There was, I think, three plays down there that, we're in man coverage in the low red zone. It's an eye discipline thing. The first one, the one I'm on, Ross St. Brown, Baker's in there in man coverage, and he takes his eyes off to go. They feel the run action. He takes his eyes off him, and he slips out. He should be right there on him. His eyes should be on him. The one to Jarvis, they run a orbit motion, and as we go to run with it, he kind of takes his eyes off him and starts to run, and they put their foot in the ground and come back in the snap. So he gets caught out of position, and then on the first, I think it was the first one, the one of the tight end in the flat. It's the same thing. They go in a fast motion. And those are hard. That's the hard part about playing the Lions and what they do with their motion is that they, you got to pass it off, and so it's supposed to get passed off, and ultimately does it, and he ends up open for a touchdown. So it's just more the eye discipline and the tracking of people and some of those things that are designed to give you conflict, being more disciplined with our eyes.
That when reflecting on the first 7 games, that the ball just hasn't bounced the team's way this year. Do you believe that?
There's moments where it feels like that, but there's also a part of football where you have to make your own luck to some degree too. You got to those things that feel like luck and feel like the bounces go your way or don't go your way. Part of that is making it happen for yourself too. We've also given away a lot, and that's there's moments where it feels like there's like 3 plays a game where it's like, what in the world is happening right now? Like, how does this even happen? But there's a part of the ball bouncing your way. Like good teams have to kind of just goes your way sometimes. The ball, they end up with the ball. They make plays on the ball. There's a momentum factor that it's hard to like pinpoint what that is. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where it's felt that way. But again, I'm more in the line of you sort of have to create those opportunities and you have to make your luck a bit too in this league. And we've not done a good enough job of it.
When you look at the state of this franchise, do you feel that it's shifted a lot or at all from coming into the season to now having, tied with Carolina for the worst record in the league?
I'm not quite sure.
Like the state of the franchise, like the optimism, the stated goal, where you guys felt you would be and the direction that the franchise is going.
Yeah, I think our record is what it is. It's not indicative to me of what I think we're capable of. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, no, I don't. My vision and my belief in what we're going to do and how we're doing it hasn't had the results to show for it yet, and that's disappointing. I was hopeful. I was anticipating better than where we're at right now, and that's just the reality. But we're not there. And at the end of the day, the vision, my belief, and the people here and the players here is that we should be better and we need to be better. And I know where we're headed. I believe in it very much. And those are things that happen when you're in a dark spot. I mean, these years are challenging. They challenge your vision, they challenge your leadership, and those are all things that come with being in your first year. But I'm about as determined as I've ever been to get it right and get it fixed, and keep on the track that I believe that we're on. And we got to do some things better all the way around. But I'm not at all dissuaded from what I think we're capable of being.
Also pointed to some teams that have gotten good that had bad first years and kind of said, just trust me.
Mm-hmm.
You on the same page with that?
As far as what I'm saying to you?
In terms of just trust him, just trust you guys, it'll get better?
Well, I mean, again, I've said this before, but I think the definition of faith and trust is believing in something you don't have any proof of at the moment. You know, and right now we don't have proof. We have nothing tangible to show for what our process is, how we do things, because it's a production-based business and a results-based business. You know, we're 1-6, and that is what it is. But I do have faith in where we're headed, and I do have faith in how we go about our business here and what that's going to bring for us. So I'm not asking you guys to trust me necessarily, but I know that I have trust in the people that I'm working with and what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Whether it's special teams or, other personnel moves, whatever it would be, at what point would your belief in what you're just talking about be shaken a little bit? You're talking about finding the play indicative of what you believe you can be.
Mm-hmm.
How long can you go without that play before your own faith gets tested?
Oh, you have to persevere. You have to. There's a resilience to it, and it's challenging. Certainly, there's days where you got to keep finding that, and you got to keep pushing through it, knowing that you at the end result of what you believe the process is that you're going to get there, and that's what I do. And there's things that we have to get better at. There's things that we need to make improvements on. There's things that I've had to adapt. And I've had to find different ways that maybe this isn't exactly what I thought in the moment. And we got to grow and we got to adapt and we got to maybe do something a little bit different. And I think as long as you're open to that and you're flexible to it, you can keep pushing and keep working through the things that are challenging. And right now we're right in the midst of it. And these challenges are things that I think are going to make us better. At the end of the day, it's going to make us a harder football team. It's going to make us put us in a position, I think, to deal with adversity better in the future as we fight through it. But those are all things that come with it. And right now at 1-6, we're right in the thick of it right now, and we got to find our way out.
How patient has Amy been through this process as you guys go through these struggles?
Yeah, look, none of us are that patient, and again, any conversation with her, I'll leave between us. But at the end of the day, we communicate, we speak, we talk. All of us, between Rand and Chad and myself and Amy, we have the conversations that we need to have. We lay it out. There's no sugarcoating anything, and we know what the plan is and where we're headed and how we're going to get there. But yeah, those things are it's all part of it, and it's all you're only as patient as what it's the NFL. There's not a lot of patience anywhere in the NFL, and we got to find a way to get better.
Respond super well to negative plays over the course of a game. Examples like a turnover, then a quick score on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. You talked about some sideline energy, but can you diagnose a root cause of some of that, response?
No, that's been the hardest part so far for us, I think, is finding ways to complement each other the right way. And we go down, we turn the ball over early in the game, and they score. It's 7-0, and we find a way to climb back in. It's 7-7, and then we give up a big kick return, and they score. Now it's 14-7, and then we come back and answer, and it's 14-14. And so now we're kind of in this back and forth, and then you go to 14-14, and then we give up the 70-yard touchdown run. Now it's 21-14, and then now it just starts to. It's like the back and forth. It's like it's hard to keep up doing that, and we have to do a better job in all three phases of complementing good play. And we haven't done that yet. We haven't complemented a big stop on defense with a score on offense. We haven't complemented a big answer on offense with a stop on defense. I feel like that's happened all year long. And the answer is how do you improve that is you just have to go make the play when you need to make it. And right now we're not in that phase. And we're just sort of out of sync when it comes to complementing each other in all three phases. And it's really making it hard on us to capture momentum, especially against really good teams on the road. And those things make it challenging to go win a game when you can't quite flip the momentum in your favor and you can't quite flip the execution in your favor. We keep getting in these spots where we're not doing a good enough job helping each other out. And we've addressed it. We talk about it. It's all things that guys are aware of. And, I thought the early part of that game and in the first half, we did a much better job answering when something either negative happened or something we found a way to answer. We just didn't sustain it for the entirety of the game.
Some of the guys have mentioned like adversity, the energy gets down, the vibes aren't right on the sideline. As far as a leadership perspective, who are some of the guys that okay, that energy is down. I could depend on him and he's going to get it back up.
Yeah, I think the guys that you see right now, playing the best football for us. It's Tony Pollard. I thought Calvin answered in a big way this week in terms of his production and his knowing that we rely on him to make big plays, and he made them. I think the offensive line wise, like Lloyd does a great job keeping things together up front. So those are the guys. And on defense, it's I'm watching Jeff and Arden in the last it's 52-14, and they're still down there trying to knock the hell out of the ball carrier. I mean, those are the things that I look at that gives me confidence that we have the right things in play. We have the right mentality. Our best players are playing their ass off at the end of a game when we're not winning. And those are the things that make me believe in what I'm seeing there. We just have to clean up the things that are losing us games. But the core of what we need is there.
That was Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan addressing reporters at St. Thomas Sports Park. A lot to get into there. We will react to it next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Show, which coming here to Nashville, which is presented by our friends over at Law Tigers. Meet us at the fairgrounds as female riders from all over the world will be in attendance. Come out and see some of these beautiful custom bikes, from choppers to mini bikes, from cruisers to sport bikes. All makes and models are encouraged to come. Get your tickets now at IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com. That's IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com. Enjoy a day of live music, vendor village, tasty foods, and so much more. Show off your bike with one of their many competitions and win cash prizes. All spectators are welcome, and kids under 16 are free with the paid ticket. So mark your calendars. November 9th, the Iron Goddess All-Female Show, which is coming to Nashville again, is sponsored by our friends over at Law Tigers. I can't wait to see you there.
D-Mace, Vingan and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. We just heard from Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan. A lot there to react to. The vultures are circling because when Jarrett Stillman attends a news conference, he could smell blood in the water. I think
he would be a vulture then? Is that what we're saying?
He could be. We could go with the great white shark. There's blood in the water. We can use whatever animal metaphor.
I think buzzard maybe for Jared.
Buzzard, vulture, scavenger, whatever you want to use.
Are buzzards and vultures loud? Emotional?
That's a good question.
Ranty?
Could be, yeah.
If so, then that would be.
That describes.
We'll come
why.
up with the perfect
Stillman.
animal for Jared Stillman. But point being, I have to imagine Jared attended this news conference under not the assumption, but perhaps with this thought that Colt Anderson would no longer be Tennessee Titans special teams coach. But
well, Jared's solution to everything is just clean house, start over, get somebody else without any regard to who that person would be or why or anything like that, or any knowledge of there is a person better out there. That's his rule of thumb.
This isn't about Jared. I'm just, when I heard his voice, I was like, well, this must be a big news conference because Jared Stillman showed up.
Well, but I have heard for him call for the special teams coach.
Yes. And he is not alone. He is not alone in that. And for those of you who were hoping that Colt Anderson would be a sacrificial lamb, there's another animal. This is like a zoological segment here.
Kevin Carter, by the way, your former teammate, was a
Yes.
zoology major at the
Yes,
University
he
of Florida.
was.
Yeah. But now I would say if you're looking at special teams, it's really one area that is glaring, and that is the punt game. Now you have Ryan Stonehouse, who is a guy that is well known for his leg, right? Since he took over, his yards per punt, and this goes back to our conversation we started with the defense, the misnomer of them being, quote, the number one defense because they have allowed the fewest yards. Ryan Stonehouse, by definition, in each of his first 2 years in the league, is the, quote, number one punter in terms of yards per punt, 53.1. And I think that was close, if not setting the all-time record. But it shows you, if you look a little deeper, that because you can punt it further does not mean that you are effective in what you do. And by looking at the metrics, he has been average to below average overall in each of his first 2 years, let alone this year. And I'll read you in the FTN Almanac, Ryan Stonehouse. In 2022, that's Stonehouse's rookie year where they decided to keep him over the veteran Brett Kern. He was cheaper, right? And he was, he had the leg, and they felt like he's got a future in the league. Stonehouse was the league's most valuable punter in gross value, but the Titans allowed a lot of returns to have an overall negative net punting value. That was 2022. That was 2 years ago when the season kind of sputtered out of control after they had a good start. Last year, 2023, Stonehouse declined dramatically and was below average by our values. Too many touchbacks, among other things, but the Titans' punt coverage was better. The Titans allowed an average of 4.2 yards per return, which is pretty solid when you consider Devin Duvernay ran off a 70-yarder against them in week 6. So before the injury, you see kind of a hodgepodge. Even though he can kick it further than anybody else, their overall coverage was average to below average. Now what's going on this year? They've had 2 punts blocked for touchdowns, and they have given up enormous return yardage. The guy's got a running start every single time he catches the ball. He is out-kicking the coverage. This is what I don't understand, because it's one thing, the protection. It looks like they've got that fixed. But if you're the other team, really, who cares? Let them punt it. We're getting great yards on the return. We got a chance for a big return because they don't cover very well. I don't understand why Stonehouse has not adjusted his kicking philosophy? Why has, and there have been 3 different special teams coaches. This goes to my point with Jared, right? Changing the coach does not necessarily
change
fix the problem.
Yeah.
Why has nobody told Stonehouse, we need you to punt it higher? I don't care if it's 53 yards. Great, you can punt it further. I want 45 yards, or depending on the situation, right? I've never thought he's very good at pinning the other team back inside the 10. But there has not been improvement from him to me since he's gotten here. He looks like a guy that's got a great fastball. He can throw it 100 miles an hour, or a guy who can drive the ball on the driving range 350 yards, and everyone's like, wow, man, this guy can really hit it, man. This is awesome. But when it comes to the precision and the end game and the details, I don't think he's gotten a whole lot better. Honestly, I think Stonehouse is a big issue in why the punting game is so bad. Not the only issue, but he's the guy that's consistently there the whole time.
The kicker has to do his part. He has to give the guys an opportunity to get down the field. Now, I don't know what they're obviously, because he's been through 2 to 3 coaches, no one is telling him, hey, listen, we need to be more hang time than, yardage. As far as yardage you're kicking, we need you to have more hang time and more directional kicks than anything. It seems like no one's telling him that, but I'm sure someone is telling him that. He just hadn't executed it, and they have no one else to go to because he's a young kid and he does have a strong leg, but he just has to figure out, how to place the ball and consistently give it airtime. And I'm sure that comes with, years in the league and sort of figuring that thing out, practice after, during the off season, you working on certain things to make your job a lot better or for you to be a lot more effective in games. But this special teams unit, this is probably the worst I've seen this unit, at least the coverage teams anyway, in a very long time. I was fortunate enough to have Alan Lowry, who was a really good special teams coach. And here's the difference between a guy that has done it, a guy that's seasoned, a guy that has had success in his area, and a guy that hasn't done it as long or hasn't had any success. Because mind you, Colt Anderson was the assistant special teams coach. Colt Anderson retired in 2017. And 5 years later, 6 years later, however many years later, he finds himself the special teams coach. He doesn't have much experience. So when you don't have that experience and things start happening, guys are hesitant to look toward you or to look to you to fix it. Why? Because you're not an experienced guy. You wasn't the guy that got Cincinnati's special teams where it was. You were the guy behind the guy. You see what I'm saying? So if you have a veteran guy sitting there, a guy that has had some success and is going right, guys tend to stick with you longer because they're like, listen, he knows what it's like. He's been through it. He will figure it out. You got trust in him. But when you bring a guy that is just fresh out the bed, basically, just took off his diapers and just put on some underwear, you don't trust him as much because he hasn't had history, with going through the ups and downs of running a special teams unit. This dude just stopped playing, and I didn't realize that. Yeah. So you took one of your boys, because that's what it is, and there's no problem with it, but you took one of your boys, and you said, you know what? I'm going to make you the special teams coach. There's no way in hell I'm going to take my boy who has no experience at running it. Yeah, you got some experience sitting behind the guy, but you don't have any experience of actually being the guy. I'm not going to put you in that position when it's just when I'm a first-time head coach. I need someone with more experience. If you want to come on as an assistant, to the special teams coach like you were in Cincinnati, we can do that. But I'm not bringing you on to run my special teams unit because you have nothing. Players can't look back and say, oh, yeah, I remember, going against that Colt Anderson led special teams, and yeah, they were bad, but man, they, over time they got good. He has experience he doesn't have any experience. So these guys are not going to listen. They're not going to listen to him. They're not.
It's a fair theory that you're pointing out there. I can't speak to whether they're getting good coaching or not. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at what I observed. The special teams for the Titans, according to FTN Fantasy, it used to be called Football Outsiders, they came into yesterday the worst special teams overall. And that is despite having a well above average field goal extra point performance from Nick Folk. So he's not the problem, right? So they're still last, even factoring in that the kicking game has been good. So the punt game, they have a stat called basically value over average. What's the league average? Are you better or worse than the league average? So San Francisco is 31st in the league, 31st in punting. This is the net result of your punting game. 8% below the league average. That's not great. That's 31st in the league. But for perspective, Tennessee is 28% below the league average. That is enormous. And that just cannot happen when you're punting the ball.
But my thing is, I don't need like, and your stats are great. And this is not directed toward you, but I'm just saying as in general, I don't need stats to tell me that's not a good unit. It's not a good unit.
But I think it's.
But I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Would you say that there are other areas of special teams besides the punting game? Like the punting game is bringing down their entire special teams.
You're right about
because
that.
it's not the kicker.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like kick returns. I don't think have been great, but the kick returns around the league, most of the time it's going to be a touchback. There's been an occasional bad return. They're not great there. In fact, I'm taking a look. Kick return specifically for the Titans is a. It's not great. It's below average, but it's nothing close to the punting.
Mm-hmm.
The punting game specifically is bringing down the entire performance of the special
I just
teams.
I think Brian Callahan may have did his good friend a disservice. That's what I believe, because you put him in a position that he may not be able to succeed. I'd have been like, listen, you my boy, we coach with you. You can come on with me, but you got to be an assistant to the special teams, because this is my first, and it may be my last head coaching job. So I'm going to get the best person for the job, not the best person I know for the job. And he may not even be the best person he knows, because you might get only one shot at this, like Eminem said. So you better take full advantage of it. And it seems like sometimes these coaches, when they get their first shot, and I understand it's all about helping the next man, bringing him up, but I can't help you if I'm getting my ass fired a year later or 2 years later, because we are going to be out of a job. Let me get myself secure. Let me get a guy in here that knows it, that's been through it. And then we can bring you on as an assistant to him once again, because you hadn't logged in enough hours to run a special teams unit.
So what you're saying, Derek, is if you had one shot,
yeah,
one opportunity,
absolutely,
to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip?
They're letting it slip right now. They letting it slip.
That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, and they're letting it slip. Callahan, by some of these hires, in particular, the special teams coach. Again, he may turn out to be a great special teams coach down the line, but this ain't the time to experiment with that. It's not, because I can see if this was your second or third job, then okay, we can expect. No, but this is your first job, and it may be your last.
From Next Gen Stats yesterday after the game, the Lions totaled 262 return yards and a touchdown across 6 total returns against the Titans. The unit's plus 196 return yards over expected is the most in a game since at least 2018. The biggest return was Khalif Raymond's 90-yard punt return touchdown that gained 77 return yards over expected and had a 0.6% touchdown probability.
And I think the context of that, too, is in the last 6 or 7 years, there have been rule changes and things that make it harder to have big days like that in the return game. There's a lot less of those. So that shouldn't be happening. It's egregious. And as I listen to Brian Callahan go all through, and look, he is giving a different way of answering these questions. He's trying to answer the question with a lot of detail. I'm not sure it's any more effective than the frustration that Mike Vrabel would give all of us, and because he would just sort of shut it down and give you really blunt, short, curt answers. We just got to do better. We got to coach better. We got to play better. It's not getting it done. The result is the same. They're just not very good right now. When you're 1-6, nobody has all the answers. But I'm just looking forward when Brian Callahan is saying, I still think there's something there. There's something better there. We're going to get through it. They have, we just illustrated in detail how bad the punting game is. They also have the worst turnover margin in the league. Dead last.
To be fair,
tied
tied with the Raiders at -13.
But the Raiders have played one more game, I believe. Is that right?
I believe
the
that.
same amount of games?
You know what? That's a good question. I will check that right now.
Either way, it's -13. It's at the bottom. They have allowed 53 points off of turnovers.
The Raiders have played 8 games.
So, yeah, so they played another game. That could be good, could be bad. Let's see where they are after one.
But they're not alone, at least. Misery loves company.
Yes. And they're getting very poor quarterback play. You give me the greatest coach you ever, whether you go Don Shula or Vince Lombardi. I mean, you go right down the list of the greatest coach of all time. You give me those 3 numbers right there. I would tell you you're lucky to be 1-6, right?
Yeah.
They've had poor quarterback play. They have the worst turnover margin in the league. And they have a historically bad punting game where they have given the other team 2 touchdowns and they have not been able to cover punts well at all. They're giving up a lot of field position. It is exacerbating all of the other flaws in a roster that is not great to begin with.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans special teams at 615-737-1025. But we have heard from Ran Carthon. Sort of. We'll get to that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game.
Hey, the Predators are in action tonight. They've won the last 3. Back-to-back wins Friday and Saturday, and they're in Tampa tonight for what's going to be a very emotional night for Steven Stamkos. His first game already back against his former team, the Lightning, where he was the captain and centerpiece for 16 years. Lee Company is a big sponsor of the Nashville Predators, and they've got you covered when it comes to being a homeowner and looking out for the things that are really important and keeping your house running efficiently. Your heating system, your cooling system, your plumbing, and your electric. Give them a call at 615-567-1000 and start a relationship with them. Or just go online at leecompany.com. Very easily done. If you have a maintenance problem going on in your home right now, some door issues, floors, fences, things like that, general maintenance, they can help you. Just go to leecompany.com, make that online appointment, and they'll be there to help serve you. Lee Company, proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. Nashville versus Tampa Bay tonight. And when you come to Bridgestone Arena next on Thursday, you'll see the Lee Company display proudly all over Smashville. Lee Company. Stay tuned.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Teddy's Tavern. Teddy's Tavern is your go-to spot for great food, cold drinks, and live music right in the heart of downtown. Get half off a $100 gift card now for Teddy's Tavern at theGameNashville.com/deals while supplies last. Willie Donnie, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. We will get into Rand Carthon's comments in the Tennessean, but our phone lines are packed, so let's get to those first. Brad is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brad, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. The special teams, we're forgetting the block punter this year. It's the worst special teams I've ever seen in the NFL. Let's just be honest. And this is a softball to Brian Callahan to throw this guy to the curb, the special teams coach, and get a new one. It can't get any worse, can it? I mean, if we hire a new guy, could it get any worse? There's got to be a former special teams guy out there that wants to come in and change the system. But this is also an opportunity for Brian Callahan to say, look, we're going to change some things now to try to get better, because it's horrendous. It's not even close. It's not even like we're not even discussing that it's even close to an NFL quality special teams. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brad. And before we answer your question, I was listening to the post-game news conference yesterday, and I got a kick out of Paul Kaharski's question to Brian Callahan about Colt Anderson and how he phrased it. This was Paul Kaharski asking a question of Brian Callahan after the game yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all that. That's, obviously we haven't played well enough on special teams, but that's a little bit too much for after a game. But look, I think Colt's a good football coach. We haven't played well enough. We haven't coached well enough. So there's really nothing else to say about that.
So we didn't play the question in that, but the question was basically, and if Paul is listening, I hope I phrase this correctly. It's, what did Colt Anderson do other than being your friend to get this job?
And I heard, and he sort of kind of went down the line of, today he said, well, he was here, he was there, but in actuality, listen, he didn't have enough time on task. He didn't have enough time. He's a young coach. He just took off the helmet, and he's only been assistant to the special teams coach for a couple of years. Why did you feel compelled to hire him rather than going with a more seasoned special teams coach, considering where this special teams unit has been in previous years? That's the part I don't understand. Like, I know you believe in your friend, or you hired him because he's your friend and a special teams coach, but you should have known.
Are they friends?
Well, they were on the same coaching staff, so I would just assume that they were friends if they were under the same coaching staff in Cincinnati.
Like, I don't know. Like, what
Zach
is the
Taylor
track
hires him.
record historically of hiring your friend? Like, is there a stat for that? Like, I don't. It's an interesting theory, and I know with Vrabel there was a lot of, he was probably too loyal.
But it's not even about hiring your friends. It's about hiring.
But is he the first guy? If that's the case, he's not the first guy to hire his friend. I get what you're doing is giving legitimate criticism and question. The friend thing, how do we quantify that?
Yeah.
That is irrelevant
to me. It's not necessarily that he's a friend, but it does help in a hiring process. But it's the experience. Did you hire him because of the experience, or did you hire him because of him being your friend?
You're taking it down a different road than Paul's question is, why did you hire your friend, basically?
Yeah, basically. And that's the same thing I'm asking. Like, did you hire him because of an experience? You think he's experienced?
No, but you're bringing up the real issue. You're bringing up an issue. But somebody has to give you a break. Somebody has to give you your shot. And there have been many people who have gotten a shot because you know somebody, you're comfortable with them, and you believe in them. There's nothing wrong with that logic. It doesn't always work.
Sometimes
it ain't working now.
I know, but Paul's intimating that you hired your friend. That was dumb.
I'm not saying I'm
sure there are a lot of examples of the same hiring process that went very well, and probably a lot that didn't.
Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
I've heard that a few times before.
Yes.
Tim is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tim, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys, thanks a lot. First of all, I got a question in that. Willie, you're talking about all those other coaches, would they have had the same record and everything, and the special teams be bad? It wouldn't, because they would have done something about it before now. Now,
such as?
I have a trade proposal.
Okay.
Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, Will Levis, all the rest of the coaching staff, and $1 million for an 8th round draft pick.
I'm going to say no on that one,
There's no
Tim.
8th round
Thank you
draft
for
picks
calling,
anymore.
Tim.
Thank you.
I know.
But Willie, why don't
I
you
know what
take
Tim was trying to say? Yeah.
answer Tim's thought about the coaching thing that you
Well,
explained?
I am always hesitant to because they did it last year.
Mm-hmm.
They did fire the special team coach.
Mhm.
Mike Mularkey fired the special teams coach a few years before that. Sometimes that is the solution, but I think it's very easy for fans and media sometimes to say it's not working, so just fire the coach.
Oh, I'm not asking for him to be fired.
So I'm trying to bring solutions to the table. I'm bringing up Stonehouse. I'm bringing up the trajectory. I'm giving what I'm seeing as consistently. I don't think their punter is very good at placing the ball where he's supposed to place it. He's not very good at that. He's brilliant at kicking it very far. But that's, like I said, that's like a guy in golf who can hit the what out of it for distance. But it's not all about distance and punting. It's precision. It's doing things in tune with your return team, including hang time, which was brought up a bunch of times. And Stonehouse has not adjusted at all since he's been in the league. They were 31st in punting last year with 2 different special teams coaches. They were 22nd his rookie year, even though he set records for gross punting average, 53 plus yards. So that is what I'm doing the same thing everybody else is doing. I'm just analyzing it and saying, here's what it is. But I'm not just going to come on and say, it's not going well, so fire the coach because he's his friend. To me, those are things that are tough to quantify. I'm saying what can be done. And I think the punter has to adjust how he's punting, or the same thing is going to continue to happen.
But as we all know, there are nuanced ways of looking at this, which is what you're doing, Willie. But when a team is 1-6, and we talked about the messaging earlier, and the messaging before the season was that this team expected to be competitive. They've played 2 Super Bowl contending teams over the past 2 weeks and have had their brakes beaten off. And we expected these games not to go well. I certainly did not expect them to go this poorly. And I, like you, Willie, I like to look at things from a nuanced perspective. I can understand where fans are coming from right now because they're angry. And at this point, it's hard for that nuance to break through because fans want a sacrificial lamb, to use that again.
Yes.
Will firing Colt Anderson today solve the Tennessee Titans special team issues instantaneously? Absolutely not. They won't. But fans want someone's head on a pike for how poorly this has gone this season. And the easiest person to most fans to fire, because it's harder to fire a general manager or a head coach.
Right.
Sometimes you have to go on a little bit of a lower level. Firing the special teams coach today is red meat to the fans, and they'll eat that red meat. We talked about buzzards and vultures earlier. And by the way, the difference between a buzzard and a vulture, I think buzzards eat live prey and vultures just pick carcasses. So that I learned that today.
Okay.
So
there we go.
So I guess
factoid.
Animal facts.
Yes, animal facts. I got my zoo books when I was younger. But the point is that it's hard for all of us, and I'm guilty of this too, when my team struggle. I'm a Saints fan. The Saints are terrible. Dennis Allen, as a fan, I want Dennis Allen to be fired. I don't see there any redeeming value for Dennis Allen to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints anymore. But that's what happens when you're a fan. At times like this, it's hard to break in with that nuance.
And I think it is easiest, relatively speaking, like you said, to fire the special teams coach. Just like in baseball, the guy that always takes the fall for a team that's not hitting is the batting coach, even though the batting coach, in my mind, just doesn't have as much control over. It's not always him that's the problem.
Well,
and it might be the special teams coach. Maybe it is.
What you do is
I'm not discounting that possibility. I just think sometimes we're a little irrational because of what Adam's saying. People just want blood.
Yeah,
they want somebody to go down.
And by the way, we have a texter who says, I love y'all, meaning us. Thank you, texter. And listen almost daily. Again, thank you. Even though I would prefer that almost to be every day. But I know we haven't reached the point to where we're spending the whole show Monday after being embarrassed blaming the punter. Like, I think that's kind of like we are trying to approach this from a nuanced perspective, but it's hard to do that in a situation like this.
There's no nuance in this, man. It's just get the job done and get your ass on the bench. Y'all bringing up all this side stuff. No, go out there. That's why I say, I understand the part about the experience. I would like an experienced guy in there. And the question that Paul was alluding to, did you hire him because he's your friend, or did you hire him because you believe he's your friend, but he's a up and coming good special teams guy? That's a question for Brian Callahan to ultimately answer. And maybe you get his answer by him just firing him, probably not today, but if the special teams unit continues to play the way they have been playing, eventually they may fire him at the end of the season. I don't know. Then you will get your answer. But it comes down to this. You block and you tackle. You stay in your lane and you make the tackle. When guys start doing things or start doing it their way, then you're going to have a situation where Khalif Raymond on 2 separate punt returns have long punt returns and one ends up being a touchdown. That has nothing to do with the special teams coach. Again, I want to repeat, that has nothing to do with the special teams coach. The only thing he can do is start taking guys out of the position that they're in and then putting other guys. Oh, wait a minute. They don't have other guys they can put in. Why? Oh, wait a minute. Like I've been telling y'all the last 2 or 3 years, the depth is not there. So he has nothing. There's nothing he can do. Damn the nuances. There's nothing he can do. He can't go out and get more people because there's not more people to go get. And then the question about, well, are you going to have starters play? Brian Callahan is thinking like, man, okay, yeah, I can do that. But what if one of those starters go down on special teams? Now you're asking the question, why did you put that starter on special teams? He's at this point right now, because everything boils down to the roster. He's in a no-win situation because he can't make changes because he has nobody he can turn to. Okay, the roster is not where it needs to be, and it's not going to be where it needs to be for the next 2 or 3 years. No matter if they change the head coach, they change the GM, this roster is still depleted. Why don't y'all understand that, people? They don't have a roster that can compete in this league every day. They got a top 11 if they're healthy to compete, but even those top 11 aren't healthy.
Right.
And they're not competing the way they need to. So to me, it's not about nuances. Football comes down to blocking, tackling, catching the football, and running the football, scoring points. All that other stuff, if we have guys, then we could talk about that. But right now, the Titans don't have guys, and it makes the special teams unit looks really bad. And again, that's not necessarily the special teams coach, because I guarantee you, we all can go in, all these people that are screaming for the special teams coach to be fired, we all can go in his office and sit there and he can show us exactly what he's doing, and we all can say that is great, that is good, and then they go out on the field and none of it happens. Is that his fault? He don't have the players.
So that's on Ran Carthon.
That is on the whole organization, the guys that's there now, the guys that were there. This roster is depleted. Why don't y'all understand that?
Okay, but
them going to get a new GM ain't going to change the fact that their roster is horrible, people.
Willie,
it's
horrible.
What about specifically of what I'm bringing up? If you were a punt returner, the hang time and the angles, and maybe just very simply, it sounds easy. It's maybe not as easy as I think it is. But just kick it out of bounds.
Yeah, you can kick it out of bounds.
But those things do look like that's a problem, and it goes beyond this particular special teams coach. I'm asking about that. That's why when the caller says, well, why are you guys talking about so much with the punter? It's all interactive, right? You're supposed to have a defense that if you give them a chance can be a decent unit. It's the best unit they have, but they were put in an impossible situation yesterday because of the turnovers and horrendous kick coverage. What about the specifics of the punter?
I understand. I don't think Stonehouse is good enough to just and it sounds crazy to say, it really does, but I don't think he's good enough to just kick it out of bounds yet. Because you can ask him to kick it out of bounds, but where do they spot it?
See, that's what I'm
you see what I'm saying? Because if I could just kick it out of bounds, they may spot it. You may see it on television that it goes out at the 2-yard line, but it probably was out of bounds 15 yards before that. or 20 yards before that. So now you're in a position where they're getting the ball at the 35, closer to 40, because you're asking him just to kick it out of bounds. It sounds simple, and I get it. I would like for him to just kick it out of bounds too. But it's just, you pay these guys to do a job. And I'm not talking about the special teams coach. I'm talking about the players. Just like I've talked about with the double teaming of the Gunners. You're telling me that we can have a double team. See, and this is not on the special teams coach. Because the special teams coach is doing what he's supposed to do. All right, where our return game isn't good, let's hold up the Gunners. Let's put a double gunner on both sides. Well, if they're not, the hold up guy, if they're not holding up the Gunners with a double team, whose fault is that? Is that Coda Anderson's fault? Is that Coda Anderson's fault when he's telling them, hey guys, listen, we're going to kick an angle kick high, or we're just going to kick an angle. Everybody stay in their lanes. Do not cross over one guy. Do not get too far out of your lanes. Stay in your lanes, because eventually it's going to come back to you. And then you watch the film and guys going out of their lanes. I can't bench them because I have nobody else to go to. That's not a Coda Anderson problem. But I get it. I get it.
We'll continue this on the other side because we still have phones and texts to get to at 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game.
Football is back, and what better way to bet on big games than to do it on Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in Tennessee that is bringing sports betting to a whole new level. When you sign up for Zen Sports, you'll automatically earn up to $100, no danger first wager. If your first bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $100. And now that football season has started and we're entering into the end of the 8th week, this Monday night, Zen Sports is launching a revamped betting platform, or they have launched a revamped betting platform for both college football and the NFL. And what's better, with their new look, Zen Sports will be offering daily promotions, including boosts, same-game parlays, no danger wagers, and so much more. Also, Zen Sports offers a one-of-a-kind VIP reward program. If you qualify, you earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, and even sportbook bonuses. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for, football fans? Start betting with Zen Sports, where you will receive true odds on all parlays and an enhanced user experience for all. Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
D-Mays, Fengen and Donick, 102.5, 106.3. The Game continuing to take your calls on the Tennessee Titans after they lose 52-14 to the Detroit Lions yesterday. Our friend Eric is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eric, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Guys, in the spirit of the season, I have to say this. This team to me no longer is known as the Tennessee Titans. I'm now calling them the Halloween Titans. A lot of tricks, but very few treats. And I tell you what, guys, also, this team tricked, fooled, and deceived me into believing that this team was going to be better than it was. I didn't know if they were a playoff team. I thought at best they were outside shot at the playoff team, or at least 7 wins. But if we don't beat the Patriots, we may not win another game. And even if we do, I think we're looking at a 3 or 4 win season.
Thank you, Eric.
They cannot stand prosperity, guys. It's just frustrating because I tell you what, we throw the interception early. They get a touchdown after 3 and out. Then we tied up at 7. Next play, boom, a 70-yard touchdown. Tied it up at 14. Then after that, to give up your punt return, have positive plays called back because of penalties, and a whole debacle at the end of the first half. I mean, where you had a timeout left, should have at least tried one rush in the end zone. It is just so aggravating. Guys, I'll get off, let you get some other callers. Y'all take care and get to talk.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
This goes back to what we were talking about with the messaging from the Titans at the start of the season. Eric, I think, speaks for a lot of Titans fans who felt that they were sold a competitive team. Now, what does competitive mean to you? The definition can vary. I think at the least, Titans fans were told that this team could at least be in the mix for their division at some point during the season. I don't think any of us thought this team was a legitimate contender, but at least they were playing meaningful games late in the season, which doesn't appear that it's going to happen that way. But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The messaging from the organization, I feel like they did not do an adequate job of being realistic about this team. We use this example all the time. Think about the beginning of last season for the Predators. Barry Trotz made it abundantly clear that that Predators team may have some struggles. Barry Trotz said, we may be a sneaky good team. We may be a bad team. Stick with us. Be patient. And you know what? When the team started 5-10, and when they lost 9-2 to the Dallas Stars right before they went on that point streak, there was more grace for the Predators because they were upfront about what that team was going to be. And I just think that the organization, the Titans organization, did a poor job of selling their vision for this particular team this season. And I think, as I said, Eric speaks for a lot of Titans fans who feel they were sold a false bill of goods.
I mean, again, we're not in other markets, but I'm going to take my own advice. Listen, I'm not worried about everybody else's kid. I'm just worried about my kid. So I'm not worried about everybody else's fan base and market. I'm just worried about my market. But I don't think there's been a GM within the last 10 years that said what you just alluded to, Adam, what Eric alluded to, and what Willie has been saying. That this is a sort of rebuild. Again, other sports, you may be able to do that. And I think other sports, they're really, it's like, okay, it has to be the right message. It has to come out right in order for the fan base to stick with you. Because if you come out and you tell a fan base, whether you believe it or not, if you come out and tell a fan base that, listen, this is going to be a tough season. We ain't going to make it to the playoffs. We're going to play hard. We're going to go out there. We're going to try to win as many games, but the roster is just not there, and give us some years to fix the roster. The fan base is going to be like, okay, well, we'll see you in a couple of years. We'll see you in a couple of years, and we're not going to pay for that new stadium that you're building. I pay for it for yourself. Why? Because the product on the field ain't good. So why should we even pay? Why should we even help you pay for a product that ain't good? When you get the product right, we'll come back there and we will spend our money over that new facility or that new stadium. But until then, I ain't spending my money. I can go to the Predator. I can spend my money and go to a Predators game because they're winning, and it seems like they're headed down the right track. I ain't gonna spend my money if you're telling me right now this team is gonna be a poor team.
the year after the Rams won the Super Bowl in 2021, they were 12-5 that season when they won the Super Bowl. They went 5-12 the next season. And Les Snead, their GM, used the term remodel. He went out of his way not to use the rebuild word. He called it a remodel. And part of that is because when you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, to paraphrase, there's some weight-bearing walls in that house you're trying to tear down. When you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, obviously the Titans don't have that.
But what did they do? What did the Rams do prior to that season?
They won.
Okay, they won what? A Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
When you win a Super Bowl, you can get grace. You can come back and say, well, you know what? This is a remodel and not a rebuild. Had they not won a Super Bowl, Les Snead wouldn't have let that come out of his mouth, because fans would have been like, y'all spent all that money last year to try to win a Super Bowl. You went out and got the quarterback. You got the defensive player. You got the best defensive player in the league in Aaron Donald. You go get one of the top corners. Why aren't y'all winning? You can't sell that when you're winning. When you've won, I can sell that all day. Why? Because fans across the board are the same. As long as we can hoist that trophy up and we can brag about our trophy for the next year or 2 or 3, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to give you the grace to say, hey, it's a rebuild or a remodel. We don't care. You gave us what we wanted. But when you don't get them what they want, you can't come at the podium like, hey, this is a remodel or a rebuild or whatever you're trying to say. You can't do that.
Okay, but what you can do is they changed the coach.
Who did?
The Titans.
Oh, the Titans.
They fired the coach.
Mm-hmm.
They moved on from Derrick Henry. They moved on from Ryan Tannehill. They moved on from Kevin Byard. There is a line drawn from the era that I think you can trace back to 2019, where the window probably opened. Now, they had some 9 and 7s before that, but Mike Vrabel wasn't the coach for all of those, right? Mike Mularkey got them to the playoffs. They switched the coach. So in 2019, they go 9 and 7. They got to the AFC Championship game. They come back with 11 and 5 and 12 and 5. I would define that as the Ryan Tannehill and the peak of the Derrick Henry era. That's a window that you're opening. They go 7 and 10 and 6 and 11, and they change the coach. So you have the opportunity for a reset, and you can define it. You don't have to say rebuilding if you think that is a taboo, which I get. And you made a good argument as to why you don't do that. I understand that. But there are ways to send a message to buy yourself some time and temper expectations, because you had a brand new coach. And more importantly, you didn't have Matthew Stafford. You have an unknown at quarterback who I think they probably oversold. And I go back to the examples. They put him, not by name, but they put him in the press release when they decided to move on from Mike Vrabel. We have a great young quarterback, something to that effect. So I think we're selling that, hey, with the right coach and this quarterback, if we can bring out the best in him, we'll be all right. But the reality was that was too much to sell. They would have been smarter to be tempering expectations. And then if you overachieve, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no price to be paid. You look smart.
But Willie, can you do it?
When you oversell and try to cover up for the fact that you have not drafted very well and have not developed talent, and you have basically no proven players at 26 or under, save for Jeffrey Simmons and 1 or 2 others if you want to stretch it a little bit, it's so hard to win for anybody.
Okay.
It was a rebuild. Whether you wanted to, you don't rebuild because you decide to go rebuild. You rebuild because this is who you are.
Okay. Based upon what you're saying, it's cool. You're absolutely right. After the season, enter into the next season, you can say that. Unless you can say that if you don't do what the Titans did. They had all this money in the coffer. And what did they do? They went out and traded for the best defensive back. They went and got another defensive back that's pretty good. They went and got the best center on the market. They went and got the best wide receiver on the market. They went and got one of the best slot guys on the market. So they went out and then they went and got a damn good running back. So when you do that, you can't then sell this is what it's going to be. Just like Barry Trotz couldn't sell after going to get Stamkos, Marshall Solt, and those guys. He can't sell this is going to be, well, He can't sell the same message he sold the year before because now people are saying, you spent the money. I don't want to hear that no more. So the Titans went out and spent the money. Fans don't want to hear that.
But Barry Trotz.
But I understand what you're saying.
Barry Trotz had Roman Yossi,
Mm-hmm.
superstar. Philip Forsberg, excellent top-level forward.
He had
and a
those same
star
guys last
goaltender
year.
in UC Saros. No, I'm saying before, going into last year. He had that, and he knew that. But he didn't say, we're going to win because we got UC Saros, Roman Yossi, and Philip Forsberg. We're going to win. We're going to be competitive. He said, I'm not sure what we are. I'm not sure what we are. Give me some time. Be patient. The be patient is everything. That's what they should have been selling for the Titans. That's what they should have been selling.
But did he also say be patient when he went out and got Stamkos, Marchessault, and those guys?
No, he couldn't.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
That's different. So if this Titans team had gone 9-8 and surprised everybody and snuck in, then that would be where then
what
they would
win,
go
like
accordingly.
7 games,
but
6
they're
games
not
last
going
year,
that.
6, 7 games last year.
They won 6. They were 6
games,
and 11.
And then they go out and get all these high price free agents that are good free agents via trade or free agency. When you do that, you can't sell to people as much as you probably should, like you said, Willie, because you're just seeing the top of it. What's underneath the water? What's underneath the water ain't good.
Right.
They were just selling the big iceberg on
And
the
the
top.
reality is Levis is nowhere near
Exactly.
as good as they thought he would be. And in fact, he's been way worse. And so there you go.
615-737-1025. We'll touch on all of these topics and more with Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063 The Game. D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingen here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport. Teron, obviously, we've been spending a lot of time talking about the Titans special teams debacle yesterday in Detroit. The special teams unit has been a sore spot for this team all season long. When you watch and analyze what's gone wrong for the Titans special teams unit this season, what sticks out to you most?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the coverage unit, it's just not there. And guys are missing tackles, or they're just running past the punt returner. I've seen guys get shaken, juked out of their shoes. I guess a variety of things. And then also, Ryan Stonehouse, he's kicking it far, but it's not always going high and far, which you need in order to allow the coverage to get down there. So there's a lot going on. And then obviously, the blocks earlier. But I mean, no, in the year, no team has given up more return yards than the Titans this year. And it's probably about a 50 to 60 yard margin between them and the next worst team.
Teron, you asked Brian Callahan today at his news conference, and please correct me if I am not summarizing your question correctly, about his vision of what this team could have been at the start of the season versus where it is now, and how apart those two are. What did you make of his response? And let me ask you the same question, because we've had this conversation a lot about what the Titans were selling their fans about what this team could be versus what it is. How far apart do you see that divide between what the Titans thought they would be and what they ultimately are?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the gist of what I was asking. And as you look at this 1-6 start, obviously they didn't expect to be there, but I was just curious, what his thoughts were on the state of the franchise and where they are, because, yesterday he said that he understands that the product that's being put on the field is not one that fans want to invest in. When I asked him about that, and he said, we got to get that fixed. And he's 100% right. So I was just trying to gauge, where he was between then and now. I think he's convinced that the mission remains the same and that they, got to win ball games, and that's going to fix everything. But that's easier said than done,
Yeah, Teron, that is, and it doesn't seem like there's much fixing you can do with this roster. And that leads me to the question is, what do they do now? Because you have sort of deficiencies in certain areas, even the areas that you went out and spent money on, the defensive back areas. Now you still have holes in that area that you need to fill with a roster that, frankly, the roster's trash. And I'm saying it from this standpoint, like they have no depth. Like you can't, I know one of the questions was, especially, to Brian Callahan, to sort of remedy some of the special teams. Well, can you take some starters and put them on special teams? Well, yeah, but then what happens to those starters what happens if one of those starters go down in a special teams unit? So do you think there's anything they can do moving forward in regards to this roster to try to help out the special teams?
Yeah, right now, I don't think there's anything they could do, to be honest with you. I really don't think there's anything they could do. And you look at the Josh Uche trade, he went to the Patriots, for a 2026 round pick. Maybe you bring in a guy like that can help you right now, but of course he's on a 1-year deal, so it's not like you're really working towards the future. And at this point in the season, where are you going to turn? Like, there's not really much that you could do as far as improving the roster. And you're right, the depth isn't there. And the thing that's crazy is, you talk about, like you said, moving the starters over to special teams, and then, something happens there. Look at the drop-off that you're experiencing, from a lot of the starters to the backups. And Brian Callahan, he admitted that, they did regret one of the guys that they let go. I would assume it's probably Hassan Haskins, but Matthew Jackson was a really good special teams player for them also. So, there's a lot going on, and this team just frankly isn't good.
Now, TD, what was your reaction in the locker room if you did ask the question about the series right before halftime? Because to me, just get points. That's all it's about. Whether it's a field goal or 7 points, get points going to halftime. Come out of halftime, now you have a little momentum. But when you get stopped 4 straight times, now the momentum switches and goes back to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and that's, I did ask that question. And it's funny because, like, I didn't ask it in a sarcastic way or being a jerk about it, so I guess it doesn't get categorized as a tough question. I don't know. But, I mean, when you ask a head coach, like, hey, listen, you're in shotgun from the 1 yard line 4 times and you pass the ball 4 times. Explain that to me, and he said that they had the personnel that they wanted. They didn't want to go big because there wasn't much time left. So I'm like, in the middle of that, I'm like, hey, well, you had a timeout, and he said that they just didn't want to sub and go timeout. And I'm just like, well, why don't you at least show the threat of run? If it's in shotgun, chances are you're going to throw the football. I just don't understand why you do that 4 straight times, from the 1 yard line. But that's kind of like the catch-22 for being a head coach. Because if Mason Rudolph, catches the snap and hit up Nick Westbrook and Kenny like he did earlier in the game, and say, oh, hey, that's a great play call. Just a week before, they went for it, on 4th and 1, and they tried to run the ball and it got stuffed. And it's like, hey, man, why did you guys run the ball in that situation? So either way, the coach is going to be damned.
Teron, I think we have to ask about Ridley if we're going to harp on him when he does not do well. There was a nice breakout yesterday. So what adjustments do you think they made to get him in better positions, and where can they go with this?
Yeah, I think they took the shots necessary, but a lot of that credit, it goes to Calvin Ridley. And I always watch their pregame routine and things like that. Ridley actually said it himself. He said that he approached the week differently, and he went back to basics. And a good example of that, and as soon as he said that, I said, okay, so that's why you broke out the tennis balls, huh? There's a couple of videos on my social media of him, and I don't know who the coach is, but it's one of the strength and conditioning coaches, and they're working with the tennis ball. And then he's practicing over the shoulder catch where he's in place, and he's just kind of like pumping his arms, and he's throwing the ball over his head, and he's just tracking the football and working on those things. And it all showed. And the thing that was pretty cool is, he had a couple over-the-shoulder catches, and it's like, wow, that's exactly the situation that he prepared himself for in pregame. So that's something that I think is good that, you gave me a chance to mention, because he did change the routine. It resulted in good things. And, he tied a career high with 10 catches and a career high with 15 targets. So it was there. And he got the first 100 yards performance of the season, right? And he got that in the first quarter.
Yeah, so this series of questions is going to have to do with guys that they're trying to hope develop into pieces that are going to be on the team for a while and hopefully can turn into something that helps shape a good Titans team. Skoronski had a couple of holdings yesterday. One of them, I know they had a clip of Callahan getting upset, and when I looked at the replay, it looked a little ticky-tack. I am kind of wondering, do you start to get a little reputation? Like, I feel like sometimes you get benefit of the doubt. I look around the league sometimes, and I'm like, wow, they are really calling ticky-tack holdings. It wasn't just in the Titans game. So what do you make of Skoronski's performance yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, he said that he takes any holding call personally, and he just told himself, you can't put yourself in a position where you might have to hold. And it makes sense. I think Skoronski, I'm not going to call him a bust, but he hasn't given them the return on the investment. And I know, because I'm not calling him a bust, and I'm not saying that he sucks and this, that, and the third, it's not going to be taken as being critical of the team. But the fact of the matter is, at 11th overall, you want difference makers, and he hasn't quite been a difference maker. Now, he's something that you could lean on and say, hey, look, and he's a part of the future, but right now it's not happening.
And finally, somebody, I guess it was Jim Wyatt that asked about the quarterback situation. It is Monday. There's some evaluation to do, but what's your sense based on reading between the lines of what Brian Callahan said? Do you think Levis is in the plans this week?
Yeah, I really do think he's in the plans. They've made a concerted effort to not have him throw. He wasn't throwing even in pregame yesterday, right? And we haven't seen him throw in practice. Like, he's going through the motions during individual period, but not throwing. And I think that's all to get him out there. And to me, when I look at this, right, this Patriots team is not very good, right? And they just traded, a pretty solid defender. So I think it's a good opportunity to have a get right moment for Will Levis and for the organization as a whole, because Lord knows they need it.
Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, joining us as he does every Monday afternoon. TD, thanks for your time. We'll chat next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate it.
Teron Davenport joining us on D-Mays, Vingan, and Donick, 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your calls and texts on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we will get into Ran Carthon's comments after the game yesterday. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Mark your calendars. November 9th, the Iron Goddess all-female show is coming to Nashville. Meet us at the fairgrounds as female riders from all over the world will be in attendance. Come out and see some of these beautiful custom bikes, from choppers to mini bikes, from cruisers to sport bikes. All makes and models are encouraged to come. Get your tickets now at IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com, which is sponsored by our friends over at Law Tigers. Again, it's IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com. Get your tickets November 9th. You can enjoy a day of live music, vendor village, tasty foods, and so much more. Show off your bike in one of their many competitions and win cash prizes. Who doesn't love that? All spectators are welcome, and kids under 16 are free with a paid ticket. So November 9th, get your tickets, IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com, which is presented by Law Tigers. Can't wait to see you there.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Adam in Portland has been waiting patiently on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Adam, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
So can I just start? Do any of you doubt my fanhood? Like, yeah, I think I've proven it, right, through the years.
I would
Pretty
say
good with
so,
you guys.
yes.
Okay. So with that being said, dude, like if you've ever seen Office Space when Peter meets with the Bobs and he's like, it's not a lack of motivation, it's that I just don't care. That's where I'm at, dude. I just don't care about this team like at all right now, dude. Like and that's a problem. Like I think I've proven it through the years. I love my football team. I don't care about this one. They're so far. Adam, you said it earlier. You said the fan base is angry. I'm not angry. I'm indifferent, which is dangerous for the Titans. Like they need to fix that. There's nothing on this team that makes me want to watch them play on Sunday. I watch it because it's on, and it's like, okay, I've got to know what happened so I can talk to you guys about it, obviously. But like at the same time, I'm like, these guys aren't moving the needle one bit. And even if you were to get Shador or one of these young, promising quarterbacks, you're going to put him in a horrible situation to start his career. And so I'm just not motivated to watch him. I think the coach gave stupid answers. Like, obviously, Derek's right on this. He can't just come out and say, my players suck, man. I don't know what to tell you. We suck. We don't have good enough players. But he can't say that. But his answers are weak and lame. Your special teams has cost you like 4 games this year. I just don't care about this team, dude. It's awful. It's an awful thing to watch on Sunday.
Thanks, Adam. And let's take Adam's comment and spin it toward Ran Carthon's exclusive interview for the Tennessean. So as I said earlier, like Puxatawny Phil on Groundhog Day, Ran Carthon has emerged from the darkness. No telling if it's the same darkness that Aaron Rodgers was in, because he mentioned darkness yesterday too. Speaking of darkness, the Jets, woof, but that's not what this is about. So Ran Carthon did not hold a news conference, but he did an exclusive Q&A with Nick Suss of the Tennessean. And there was one answer that I feel like when looking at the response to this question and answer, a lot of people latched onto. And the question from Nick Suss to Ran Carthon was, quote, looking at what's happened in the first 7 games and building for the last 10, what do you expect from the season, having seen what you've seen? And this was Ran Carthon's response in part. Quote, I expect our guys to continue to play hard, which is what they do. The ball's not round. You don't know which way it's going to bounce sometimes. It's those couple of opportunities that we had in the game where we jar the ball loose, but it bounces right back to them. And then on the other side of us, it gets away from us. So you can't predict which way the ball bounces. But one thing I know about our team is those guys show up every day at practice, they prepare, and they come out and fight. So we've got to continue to fight until the ball bounces our way. Our first year in San Francisco, we started the year 0-9 and were able to have a little run at the end of the season. You look at these guys here in Detroit, they weren't built overnight. I think that their first year, they started 1-6, and then they had a nice little run to end the season. So trust me, we're working and we're going to figure it out.
Okay. So you read that whole answer.
I did read the whole answer.
But what is the one line that's
ball bounce?
The ball,
right?
Yeah,
not bouncing their way.
And so you take that out of context, and people are running with that and intimating that he's saying they're just a bounce here or there from being.
And that's not what he's saying.
And what happened at the end of last season was in a response to the Titan struggles. He referenced something that Mike Vrabel used to say, which is the ball is not round. And he said the ball didn't bounce our way, I think in reference to the number of 1-score games that they lost.
So
it's a callback to a phrase he used previously that angered certain people.
I think the reality is everybody who's watched all of the games, and to Adam's point, they're in a danger zone, some of losing a section of fans of saying, you know what, I'll watch other things that are more interesting right now. Vanderbilt football, maybe the Predators keep moving in the right, whatever the college basketball, Tennessee's got a chance to make the playoffs. And you start just saying, well, I'll come back when they get more interesting, right? Because the people who have watched and are still in the trenches with you are saying, look, I've been watching the same games that you have, and the reality is you're a long way from just a couple of bounces from being good, right? I think you could make that case in a couple of games early, but that wasn't the time after getting throttled 2 weeks in a row to bring that up. Bad timing. And I still am mystified why it's an in-print Q&A apparently after the game.
Yes.
yesterday?
After the game
I
in
don't
Detroit.
get the timing of that. I think right now you want to be in front of as many people as you can, selling passion, selling I'm there with you. I feel your pain. He said a lot of the right things, but I think if you can get to a bigger audience and you can field the tough questions and saying, I'm talking to you, the fans. I'm hurting too. We're going to get there. We need picks. We've got to ride through the storm. We're going to fight like heck week in and week out and do the best we can. And we're going to identify pieces we can move forward with. There's any number of things in the tool bag, but the overall impression you've got to give is I'm going to lead this group through the fire. And I just don't think he moved the needle at all with the way they did that, the timing of it and all that. I just sagged. I was like, really? That's
I mean,
the
it's-
media
it's-
really?
it's-
Because then you got everybody else in the media saying, well, why didn't you talk to me? Why are you just talking to the Tennessean?
Well, I mean, whether it would have been him talking to Paul or him talking to this guy or that girl, Teresa, it doesn't matter. You know, it came out. He answered whatever question Nick Suss had for him. We may not have liked his answer. And I get it. You know, we heard that last year about the ball not bouncing. And I know it was a metaphor, and I know it wasn't literally the ball's not bouncing our way, but this is a razor's edge league. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you get the benefit of certain things. Sometimes you don't. But most of the times, you know, if you're a good team, you make your luck. You put yourself in a position to have the ball figuratively bounce your way, or metaphorically bounce your way, and figuratively, literally too, bounce your way. But when you're not a good team, those things happen less often. The ball bouncing your way. Well, the ball bounced their way against Miami. Why? Because Tua Tagovailoa wasn't underneath center. So that's an example of the ball bouncing their way. The example of the ball bouncing the other way is Will Levis tries to throw it out of bounds. We shouldn't have tried to throw it anyway. And the guy just picks it off and runs it in for a touchdown. That's the ball bouncing your way. That's not literally, but figuratively, plays that you are not making when you have an opportunity to make, or things that you are doing that is costing your team ball games. That's what he means by the ball bouncing, you know, one way or the other.
But
It's the
that can't be
decision.
but you can't have the takeaway.
Yeah,
be the ball's
exactly.
not bouncing our way.
Absolutely,
The
you're
takeaway
right.
has
You're
to
right.
be, I'm hurting.
Exactly.
We're hurting. We're not good enough right now. And so we're doing these things because we have to get through this fire. We have to get picks. That's how you get better.
But he still can't.
The
He
takeaway
can't
is,
say, "Oh, we're not good enough."
You have to. It's the
Willie,
reality.
I
They're
know.
1-6.
I know it's the reality, but there's no coach that is going to sit there and say, because you got to keep these guys in the locker room with you. The GM can't go rogue and say our roster's we're just not good right now, or we're not good, so we're not going to win. You got to keep these guys. You got to keep these guys motivated. You got to keep these guys together. You got to keep them focused on whatever vision you have, regardless of if you're good or bad. But you can't come out and say, as a GM, when a head coach is saying, "Hey, listen, we're close. There's still some things we got to get done, but we're close." And then the GM comes out and says something contrary to that. Then it's going to be, well, you got one guy selling something and another guy selling a thing. Those two guys are not on the same page. So they have to be on the same page. And the message is from Callahan to Rand Carthon. I don't know who the message is coming, who it's ultimately coming from, but the message is we're close. The ball hasn't bounced our way, literally and figuratively, but more figuratively, the ball hasn't bounced our way, which tells me your roster's not good enough.
Trey from Nashville is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Good, you?
I'm good. Hey, I just wanted to say, man, you know what I'm saying? All these hypotheses and woulda, shoulda, couldas. Rand been here, 2 years, man. And, you know, he's had plenty opportunities to scout these guys out, you know, get some decent players out here on the field. I basically honestly believe that he doesn't know the job. he does not know this job.
Okay.
I don't
When
care
you say he
I-
doesn't know the
I
job,
don't
Trey,
care
what do
who
you
he
mean?
works up-
No. What do you? No.
What
This
I'm
is
saying is,
no,
what I'm
Trey.
saying is,
If he doesn't know the
listen,
job, what are you?
listen,
Explain to me.
as far as recruiting, okay, just because somebody works up under somebody, that means they're qualified to go out there and get a GM job? No, it doesn't.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this: when going into off season, they had needs at the offensive line position, they had needs at the cornerback position, they had needs at the wide receiver position, and because they allowed Derrick Henry, which I have no problem with that, they needed a running back. Did Rand Carthon and Brinkert and them, did they not go out and get that? That's all I'm asking.
Derek, they spent $200 million, man.
So that means he knows he's
That
just
means
like
you
any
should
other
have a
GM.
That means you should have a decent team.
No.
and a
That's
decent
not what that
roster.
means. Trey, that's not what that means. Just because you spend the money doesn't mean you're going to have a decent team. That's not how football works. That's not how sports work. You can pay for some good players, but they may not turn out to be good.
What do they expect the fans to think then, Derek? Just say, oh, hold on, the ball didn't go our way. We'll do better next week. No,
listen,
that's not how it works.
I understand, but I'm gonna tell this to the fans.
Thank you for the call, Trey.
Thank you for the call, Trey. I'm gonna tell this to the fans. Listen up. Y'all want somebody else to do the job, right? Y'all didn't think John Robinson could do the job. She ultimately fired John Robinson. Now y'all saying after really, I'm going to say a year, because I do remember many people around here said it wasn't Rand that was running the team. And now people want to go back on what they said. A lot of people. It wasn't Rand running the team. Now all of a sudden it's Rand. And listen, when Vrabel left, when they fired Vrabel at the end of the season, I said on this, I said the clock starts for Rand Carthon now, because now Vrabel's out the building, John Robinson's out the building. Now we assume it's your team. The players you're picking are your players. So now the clock starts. So y'all gonna tell me after a year, y'all gonna get rid of the GM and everybody else? The old adage is, if you listen to the fans long enough, you're gonna be sitting with the fans. Okay. I'm not saying y'all don't have a right to be frustrated. I get it. I'm frustrated watching them, but allow them to go out and do. They went and did exactly what the Titans wanted them to do. The fan base. What was it? Y'all got 100 and something million, 200 million, whatever it was. Go out and spend it. Get the guys to come in here that can play. And what did they do? Now, it hadn't worked out the way they wanted it to, but they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They spent the money and they went out, whether it be a trade or free agency. They went and got guys that were sought after from other teams as well. So I'm not going to make it seem like these were guys that only the Titans wanted. No, they went out and got the best wide receiver on the market that many felt was one of the best. They went out and got the best center on the market. They went and traded for the best defensive back. He was a top 3 defensive back in the National Football League. They went out and they got a slot receiver who was a top slot guy in the NFL. They went and did all these things. Why? To make this roster better. It just hadn't worked out. So when y'all say they're not doing anything, what more do y'all want them to do? They went out and they got the players. Now the players have to do their job. Listen, they can go and do what they want to, but ultimately it comes down to the players that are on the field. Don't try to blame everybody else. We can change Rand Carthon. If they change Rand Carthon tomorrow, I still live and I still talk about the Titans, and I will still love the Titans. It doesn't matter who's at GM or who's their head coach. If y'all don't get the players in here that are going to make plays, y'all bring big cash money guys in, and I'm not talking about Birdman and all them. If y'all bring the cash money guys in, then it's up to them now to go out there and play the way they had been playing prior to them coming to the Tennessee Titans.
To me, the biggest misconception continues to be they spent all of this money. Spending the money is a byproduct of holes that were already there in the roster. It's fine that they did it, but spending money does not equate to wins. Spending the money is, like I said, a byproduct of there were a lot of holes to fill because they haven't drafted well. And Rand Carthon did try to explain that in his article. And I understand he's going to be doing some more one-on-ones. I guess he's not going to do a big press conference. Maybe he will at the trade deadline. I still don't like the order of all that. I would have liked to have seen him get out front and continue to pound this message home. But I think the message that he needs to continue is they have to keep acquiring picks. They were in a winning window where they were going for it. They were trading a second-round pick to get Julio Jones. They were whiffing on first-round picks. They were trading other picks to try to get the kicker, Nick Folk, just to use an example. It was only a seventh-round pick, but they were in that mold. We're going for it. We're trading. Now, they don't have very many picks, and that's hard to fix holes. The only other way to fix holes is to spend a lot of money, but that just means you had a lot of problems, and you're trying to paper over it with money. But it's not like spending the huge money in baseball for the big Japanese ace that the Dodgers have that threw a great game in Game 2, Yamamoto. You can spend your way in baseball.
And even in basketball at times.
Yes, in basketball is a great example. You can figure out football. It's not the free agents that hit the market in football are not that caliber of player.
Quickly before we go to break, a texter on our text line asks Derek, "What?" Okay, hold on, I just lost that. Derek, what is so hard for you to understand that we are just holding him accountable for his poor judgment? It's obvious he made bad purchases over the summer. You keep getting riled up every time Rand is brought up. We just want him to be held accountable for his bad decisions.
Did I once, listen to me, did I once not? I just said.
You haven't said he's doing great.
Exactly. I just said his feet.
You have to understand where he came,
exactly.
what he inherited.
And so, Texter, what are you not understanding? Do you know where this roster? Let me talk calmly for you, and maybe you'll get it. Okay. We're in a session now. Okay. So, Carla, do you understand where Rand Carthon was prior to taking where this roster was prior to Rand Carthon taking the job? Don't you know they whipped on so many first round picks? It's pathetic. Do you know they had no depth on this roster? Do you know that? Do you know this roster was depleted? And they showed you 2 years ago that this roster was depleted. When guys started going down, when frontline guys started going down, you started to see slowly how bad this roster truly was. And then last year, it was just a combination of the year before that and this year. Last year. And you saw truly how undermanned and underwhelming this team really was. And then Rand takes the job last year. But he really didn't take the job because there were many that were saying, according to Diana Rossini, he's really not running the team. It's not his team. It's somebody else's team. It's Rand Carr. It's Mike Vrabel. He's calling the shots over there, or it's Brinker, or it's somebody else. But then once they finally established a hierarchy and he's named GM, my thing was, listen, the clock starts on you, Rand, right now. You need to get it straight. And I also said it gives it 3 years. 3 years for a GM to build up a roster. Give him some time to build up his roster. It may look ugly at first, and it may look ugly at the end, but at least you got a good assessment of where your team is under him. And if you feel that he's not doing the job, then you fire him. Hold Rand's feet to the carpet. Hold it to the fire. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm not going to call for somebody's job after not even a year where I knew where this roster was. People, y'all are not understanding that. Y'all are not understanding where this roster was. Y'all just saw Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, Kevin Byard, Jeffrey Simmons. Y'all just saw the frontline guys. Did y'all pull back the covers and see what was under there, or pull back the curtain to see what was under there?
Let's discuss for a moment their wide receiving core last year.
Exactly. It was horrendous. But now y'all saying, oh, he should be doing better. Y'all, I'm going to say this. Y'all don't know football. Y'all, not like he does. Y'all don't. Y'all can't. Because if y'all are screaming what y'all are screaming, which y'all have every right to, but you got to know why the Titans are in this situation. Know why they're in this situation before you start blaming, the people that got to run this. Listen, they have a job to do. If they don't do it, eventually they will be fired. But Again, like I said last week, the sins of the father has caught up with the son, and the son right now at this particular moment is Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, and Brinker. It's all of them. Why? Because of the sins of John Robinson and whoever else was running that team back then. They did not build the depth. Was that calm enough for you?
Yes.
Thank you.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, we have a big return tonight. We'll discuss that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, if you're out there and you have a lot of credit card debt, you would not be alone. Or if you're paying big interest rates on debt like car loans and personal loans, again, you're not alone. So if you're a homeowner, Loan Pronto's got a tool for you that you need to look into. Let Loan Pronto consolidate that debt at a significantly lower rate using the equity in your home. It's a good play. It's going to save you money every month. Loan Pronto has the Express Equity line of credit plan. They can get you thousands of dollars out of your home's equity, take that money and pay off the car loan, pay off the credit card bill, consolidate that debt, and you have a better rate going forward. With the Express Equity line of credit, you can access up to 90% of your home's equity, usually without an appraisal. So get that financial house in order for the new year. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We will get back into as the Titans turn more over the course of the week. Plenty to discuss regarding the Tennessee Titans. But tonight at 6:30, the Nashville Predators, who have won 3 consecutive games since starting 0-5-0, are in Tampa to face the Lightning. Steven Stamkos will be a visiting player at Amalie Arena for the first time in his career. He spent 16 seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning, played more than 1,000 games, scored more than 550 goals, led the team as the captain for a decade to 4 Stanley Cup final appearances and 2 championships. The Predators, as I said, they're heading in the right direction. They swept their weekend back-to-back. It wasn't pretty, and we'll dig into more of the Predators as well over the course of the week. But they got the job done against the Blackhawks 3-2 and the Blue Jackets 4-3 in overtime to get back on the winning track. But it's going to be an emotionally charged atmosphere in Amalie Arena tonight. By the way, the game is an ESPN Plus exclusive. It is not on FanDuel Sports Network. It is an ESPN Plus and Hulu exclusive game. So keep that in mind. But I want to get Derek's perspective on this because Derek faced a similar situation after playing for the Tennessee Titans for so many years, came back to Nashville with the Ravens. It was week 2 of the 2005 season. By the way, you had a pretty solid game. 8 catches on 10 targets for 60 yards and a touchdown. The Titans did win the game, however, 25-10. But you can speak to what Steven Stamkos is going to be experiencing tonight because of what you meant to the Titans organization, what it meant to you, having to leave, and then coming back. What was that experience like for you, and what should we expect Steven Stamkos to experience tonight when he plays in Tampa for the first time since leaving the organization?
I mean, it was emotion filled. It was a day that you circled on the calendar because you knew what type of day it was going to be. You're anxious. All those feelings that you have. It's a part of it. But then, for me, I was just like, man, hurry up, get the game started. Let's go. So I can, truly concentrate on the task at hand is try to come here and win a game. But, it's just like for me, I got off the bus and it was odd walking to my left instead of to my right to go into the home locker room. It was, sort of surreal to see people that I would come, every morning they would see me, same people, fist bump them, good luck out there. Now you're seeing them and it's just a different vibe. Not to say they're not, wishing you good luck or whatnot, but now you're the visiting team. But it was just a time where you just sort of, you reflect for a couple of minutes. What the whole week is built up to be. And you just want to make sure that you don't allow your emotions to get caught up in the game. You go out there and you just try to do your job and stay focused. So I'm sure Stamkos, because he was there 16 years, right?
16 seasons.
Yeah, man, 16 seasons. So he basically grew up there. That's where he grew up. He and his family. So I know it's going to be extremely emotional for him, as well as his family. Once he goes back. So you just got to find a way to sort of taper the emotions and have them, but then know that once they drop the puck, man, it's time to go.
And yeah, I thought Elliott articulated it well. I think they'll use it as motivation because the team internally, they need to play better. I thought, as Adam alluded to, they did a great job of willing themselves to victory in games where they were behind 2-0 in both. They showed a lot of will and resolve, but as far as the cohesiveness that they showed last Tuesday against the Bruins, I thought they took a step back for big portions of the game, and they need to continue to get better in those areas. I think as impressive as those comebacks were Friday and Saturday, I think that same level probably comes up short tonight. And when you go 0-5, there has to be that urgency to, harden up, get better, continue to improve. So I think all of that in the backdrop tonight, I think the pomp and circumstance of the Stamkos thing will be front and center. But in the big picture for the Predators, I'm looking to see, can they iron out some of the things that have put them in holes too often. But that being said, great job by them. There were two things that I thought were huge about the wins. Number one, UC Saros is now starting to play. He's had a couple of games now where he's been a massive difference maker.
And he was named the NHL second star of the week today.
And so they may need that as they continue to, get more connected with how they're playing in front of them. And I thought it was enormous for Scott Wedgwood to play as well as he did in front of the home crowd on Saturday. I don't think you could quantify that part of it, because what did everybody say? Oh man, who's this new guy? Oh, he didn't look so good the first game. He didn't look so good in the preseason. What's going on? And that can really sink a goalie who your confidence is a lot of what you bring to the table. But I think that's a confidence building game for him. He made key saves at key times, difficult saves when the defense broke down, which it did against the team in Columbus that on paper doesn't scare you, but that team has been scoring a lot of goals, and you can see why. And so he made some critical saves, which I think will give him confidence going forward, and also the team and the fans' confidence in him.
To give you some context to what Steven Stamkos is about to do, these are other players in NHL history who played with one franchise for at least 16 seasons before switching clubs for the first time, which is what Steven Stamkos did. Gordie Howe in Detroit, Martin Brodeur with the Devils, Mike Modano with the Stars, Ray Bourque with the Bruins, Jerome Iginla with the Flames, Jonathan Quick with the Kings, Patrick Kane with the Blackhawks. Excellent players. It's a rarity what Steven Stamkos did, leaving an organization after 16 seasons and joining a new team for the first time. But the Predators are in Tampa. Game starts at 6:30. Pre-game starts here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game at 5:30. The Game is an ESPN Plus / Hulu exclusive, so that's where you can watch it. That'll do it for us today. Stillman and Company coming up next, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Be love on your people. Have a wonderful and blessed Monday. Peace.